Marvel. I created a sanctuary in Marvel Universe. Chapter 61. Under the efficient arrangements of the sanctuary conglomerate, Logan and Clarice proceeded unimpeded, swiftly arriving at the first crime scene recorded in the material. It was a dilapidated tavern on the outskirts of a remote town. The afterglow of the setting sun cast long shadows from the tavern's sign. The surroundings were eerily silent. Clearly, the place had been cordoned off and abandoned after the murder. Logan's sharp gaze swept over the tavern's surroundings, not missing a single detail. A nauseating aura, before they even got close, a chilling, evil energy residue assailed them. It was an indescribable smell, a mix of sulfur and decay, causing a strong sense of revulsion both in their souls and bodies. Indeed, more than one demon has been here. But only one directly committed the murder. There are residual traces of about 3 to 4 different demons at the scene. Logan closed his eyes. After comprehending the sixth sense of the cosmos, his senses had been enhanced to an incredibly powerful degree. Even though days had passed, he could still detect those subtle energy traces. It seems we won't find more direct clues here. The key now is, what exactly are they looking for? Clarice looked around. Logan fell into deep thought. For demons to go to such lengths to come from hell to the human world and search so overtly, that thing must be extraordinary, very likely to cause immense chaos. Subsequently, the two visited the other crime scenes mentioned in the material, but with little harvest. The demons' whereabouts were mysterious, leaving no obvious patterns. Night gradually fell, and the city lights began to twinkle. These guys are truly well hidden. Logan stood at a vantage point in the city, his brow furrowed. His senses had not picked up any abnormal feedback. What a cunning bunch of rats. Clarice also seemed a bit frustrated. With no other option, the two decided to stay in a nearby hotel and plan their next move. Inside the room, Logan spread a map on the table, drawing and marking on it, trying to find some spatial pattern from the scattered crime scenes. Just then, an abnormal roar, approaching from a distance, instantly caught Logan's attention. Logan, did you hear that? Almost simultaneously, Clarice's voice came from the doorway. She had also noticed the anomaly. I heard it, it's a sonic impact. Logan was all too familiar with this sound, he himself could break the sound barrier when fully unleashed. Interesting, previous attacks were silent, so why such a commotion this time? Let's go. Logan made an immediate decision. Clarice understood instantly, raising her hand to open a spatial portal. The two instantly traversed several kilometers, arriving at the street closest to the source of the sonic impact. The scene before them was a mess. The entire street looked as if it had been plowed by a giant plow, leaving a long, dark red glowing scorch mark on the ground. It was a vitreous substance formed after being instantly melted by extreme high temperature and then re-solidified. Vehicles parked on both sides of the street were overturned by a terrifying impact, scattered everywhere. This guy is truly reckless. Logan inspected the scorching marks on the ground, his brow tightly furrowed. In this brief observation, he had already made a preliminary judgment about the characteristics of the destructive force. This way, he sensed that the source of the destructive power was moving, and immediately led Clarice in pursuit. Boom! Logan, with Clarice, descended from the sky, landing precisely at the entrance of an alley. The powerful downward force was skillfully neutralized upon contact with the ground, demonstrating his increasingly refined control over his power. Good heavens, a burning skeleton. Clarice looked at the figure in the alley, gasping in surprise. A monster, clad in leather, with a skull burning with raging hellfire, was throwing a lifeless corpse onto the ground. The corpse's eyes had been burned out. Beside it, a plump woman sat collapsed on the ground, scared out of her wits, but the flaming skeleton seemed to have no interest in her. You. Guilty. Just as Logan was quickly assessing the scene, the Ghost Rider's penance stare had already locked onto him. In Logan's nearly 2 centuries of life, he had participated in countless wars, from World War I to World War II, accumulating a killing aura like a tangible sea of blood. In the Ghost Rider's perception, this was undoubtedly an extremely evil individual. Clarice, you save that woman, I'll handle this skeleton. Logan instantly felt the other party's strong hostility and immediately made arrangements. Understood. The moment the Ghost Rider roared and charged at Logan, Clarice precisely opened a portal behind the frightened woman, pulling her into it and transferring her to a safe zone. Good timing. Logan's eyes burned with fighting spirit. He neither dodged nor retreated, letting out a low growl and throwing a punch to meet the attack. Boom. The two fists collided violently, erupting in a muffled sonic impact. A terrifying wave of air spread outwards from the two, and the ground beneath their feet cracked inch by inch, instantly collapsing into a large pit. The newly awakened Ghost Rider was clearly inferior to Logan, who was empowered by the cosmos, in terms of pure strength. With one blow, the Ghost Rider's arm bones cracked, and his entire body was sent flying by the immense force, crashing through the brick wall behind him. Hiss! Logan also gasped in cold air. The skin and flesh on his knuckles were completely destroyed, exposing even the bones, and a few wisps of fire were attached to them, continuously burning and causing excruciating pain deep into his soul. What a strange fire! Not only can it burn the flesh, but it can also directly harm the soul. Logan's heart was solemn. If not for the sixth sense of the cosmos being essentially soul power, forming a protective layer, he would have been severely injured by that blow. Even so, to dispel the hellfire attached to his soul, the consumption of the cosmos was far greater than usual. Crack, crack, crack. A grating sound rang out. The Ghost Rider stood up from the rubble, his broken bones rapidly healing under the power of hellfire. He casually grabbed an iron railing beside him, and hellfire instantly enveloped and reshaped it, turning it into a temporary weapon burning with fierce flames. Interesting fire, able to burn flesh and soul, and also enchant. There's even a hint of sanctity mixed in with the power of hell. What exactly are you? A demon? Or a fallen angel? Logan's eyes narrowed slightly. The skeleton within him rapidly extended and covered his body, then metallized to form a sturdy battle armor. At the same time, he mobilized the power of earth elements, drawing a continuous stream of energy from the ground. He judged that the monster before him was not the hell demon they were looking for, but it must be related to hell, likely an important clue. So he wasn't planning to kill him. The ground beneath his feet exploded. Logan once again broke the sound barrier, transforming into a silver streak of light and charging towards the Ghost Rider. The airflow generated by his high-speed movement even caused the Ghost Rider's flames to momentarily falter. Sinner! The Ghost Rider roared, swinging the burning iron railing to meet the attack. Clang! The deafening clang of metal striking metal was ear-splitting. Hellfire and metal bones clashed once more, as two figures, one red and one silver, engaged in a super high-speed offensive and defensive battle in the alley. Each collision unleashed terrifying energy ripples, destroying the surrounding buildings beyond recognition. The battle between the two erupted in a shower of sparks, with every punch and kick accompanied by splashing hellfire, causing the dim night sky to flicker between light and dark. The surrounding ground was already unrecognizable, scorched with countless pits by the high-temperature flames, and the exposed soil gleamed with a vitrified luster. Fortunately, this area was located on the city's outskirts with almost no residential buildings, otherwise, the damage would have been incalculable. Even with his body covered in metal bones, Logan felt waves of searing pain. The hellfire seemed to penetrate physical defenses, directly scorching his soul. If he didn't possess powerful self-healing abilities, constantly repairing his burnt bones and muscles, he would have likely been defeated long ago. Logan growled through gritted teeth, knocking the Ghost Rider away once more. Watching the opponent, whose bones were shattered, casually get back up, he finally understood the helplessness his adversaries faced against a self-healer. This self-healing ability is truly disgusting. A long unfelt fury surged in his chest. His inability to finish off his opponent for so long had completely ignited Logan's true anger. Whoosh! He suddenly pushed off the ground, his speed increasing to another level, his figure transforming into a silver lightning bolt, instantly appearing before the Ghost Rider. Die! Logan's roar echoed, accompanied by a sonic boom. At this moment, he had transformed into a perfect fighting machine. Fists, elbows, knees, legs. Every part of his body became a deadly weapon. In the past, he would never have possessed such exquisite combat skills, but after inheriting the fighting techniques of Taurus, his close combat level had reached perfection. After all, as a Saint Seiya, he couldn't always fight in a bloody mess, he had to maintain some image. The Ghost Rider was completely reduced to Logan's punching bag for venting anger, utterly defenseless against his storm-like assault. A dense series of impact sounds was incessant, and the Ghost Rider's feet gradually left the ground, his body twisting and deforming in midair. As Logan delivered a heavy punch, the Ghost Rider was sent flying like a broken kite, crashing into the ground in the distance, his white bones shattering into countless pieces. In medical terms, this was a complete comminuted fracture, the kind that couldn't even be pieced back together. Crack, crack, crack. The familiar sound of bones reassembling echoed again. Logan's forehead veins bulged. Can't be killed. He simply can't be killed. The Ghost Rider's fragmented bones began to automatically reassemble. At this rate, he would be fully recovered in less than 30 seconds. Logan scanned his surroundings. This area was already utterly destroyed. Good, good, good. Let's change locations, I'll have a good time with you. He laughed in extreme anger. Relying on the power of the earth element, Logan, with his feet on the ground, possessed almost infinite stamina. He wanted to see if this burning skeleton was truly immortal. Taking a few large strides, Logan was already in front of his opponent, his large hand directly seizing the Ghost Rider's skull. Boom! A sonic boom erupted again, and Logan, dragging the Ghost Rider, shot up into the sky, flying towards the distant wilderness. Is he that troublesome? He actually needs to change the battlefield. Clarice, watching from a distance, clicked her tongue as she saw Logan fly away. Due to the immense commotion of the battle, she had maintained a safe distance, observing, a physical body without cosmos amplification was too fragile, and she didn't want to be a burden. Seeing Logan fly away, she immediately opened a portal and followed. For Logan, who had awakened his cosmos, to struggle so much, she developed a strong curiosity about that burning skeleton. Under supersonic flight, Logan quickly found a suitable wilderness to unleash his power. He exerted force with his arm, throwing the Ghost Rider at supersonic speed towards the ground. Boom! A huge impact sound echoed, and dust filled the air. Logan gave his opponent no chance to breathe, his figure plummeting like a meteor, once again striking where the Ghost Rider had landed. Boom! Another loud bang, the ground shook violently, and the dust suddenly rose several meters. The earth for several miles around trembled, as if experiencing a small earthquake. Clarice, who arrived just in time, hovered in midair, observing the distant battle through a portal. Die, 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 die. Logan's angry roar accompanied the sounds of his punches. At this moment, he had long cast aside the thought of not killing, his only desire was to dismantle this skeleton. Titan Nova. Logan finally used his killing move. The power of cosmos condensed in his fist, emitting a dazzling golden light. Buzz. A strange phenomenon occurred. The extreme roar transformed into an eerie silence. The impact instantly cleared the dust-filled sky, and Clarice's vision became clear. What met her eyes was a giant crater, tens of meters in diameter and over a dozen meters deep. At the bottom of the pit, that wisp of hellfire was still burning, but it was much weaker. The Ghost Rider's bones were almost entirely reduced to powder. The power of cosmos could act on an atomic level, and if not for the special amplification of hellfire, this single blow would have been enough to turn him to ashes. Even so, the Ghost Rider's recovery speed was far from what it was before, clearly indicating that his power was nearing exhaustion. So your recovery isn't endless either, Logan panted, looking at the dying Ghost Rider. Sinner, sinner. A faint voice came from the bottom of the pit. Seeing the opponent still slowly recovering, Logan gave up on the idea of continuing his attack. Clarice, seeing the battle end, opened a portal and appeared beside Logan. Tisk, how miserable. Looking at the faint flame at the bottom of the pit, Clarice couldn't help but feel a bit of sympathy. Time passed by, minute by minute, and the eastern horizon already showed the first light of dawn. The flames on the Ghost Rider grew weaker and weaker, and when the first ray of sunlight fell upon the earth, the flames finally extinguished completely. The skull transformed back into the face of a human man. It's a human. Logan frowned. In his perception, the opponent was a pure human, even his X gene was in a recessive state. That power, a mixture of hellish and divine aura, was also deeply hidden within his body, difficult to detect. He's still breathing, you didn't kill him. But he won't wake up for a while. Clarice breathed a sigh of relief after checking him. This person was a clue they had painstakingly found. It would be too much of a pity if he died like this. We can't go back to the hotel. It'll be troublesome if he transforms again. Have the sanctuary conglomerate arrange supplies. We'll temporarily set up camp in this wilderness. Logan made his decision. No problem. Clarice immediately contacted the sanctuary conglomerate. That morning, an RV loaded with supplies arrived at the designated coordinates. Thank you for your hard work. Logan nodded to the supply personnel. After firmly securing Johnny Blaze to the ground using the power of the earth element, Logan sat cross-legged and entered a meditative state, beginning to recover his expended cosmos power. Just as Logan and Ghost Rider were locked in fierce combat, miles away in an abandoned cemetery. Hey, quite a commotion. It seems my dear father has already detected our presence. His voice, a cold magnetism, echoed among the desolate tombstones. The air demon, standing opposite him, its form like twisting air currents, hissed, "Are you truly certain your plan will succeed? Mephisto's reign over the hell dimension has lasted longer than human history. That dimensional fragment is one of his foundations. Can you really sever his authority so easily?" His tone carried unconcealed doubt. Blackheart's face twisted into a sneer of disdain. At this point, do you really have a path to retreat? We smuggled ourselves here from hell. Mephisto would not be unaware. He knows our objective, which is why he awakened the Ghost Rider. A silence enveloped the cemetery, broken only by the whimpering of the night wind through the withered trees. After a moment, Earth Demon spoke in a low, hoarse voice, like grinding stones. Blackheart, the Demon Lord position you promised is indeed irresistible to us. But if you fail to deliver on your promise, you should be aware of the consequences of betraying us. Rest assured. Blackheart spread his hands, and black hell energy began to emanate from him, as if countless wailing souls struggled within it. As long as I obtain the San Venganza contract and absorb the power of those 3,000 fallen holy souls, my strength will skyrocket. Dealing with Skyfather-level beings in that dimension will be effortless. Without obstruction, by virtue of Hell's ancient rules, I will be able to refine it into a brand new Hell. And I will become the new Archduke of Hell, perhaps even glimpsing the threshold of a Skyfather. You, naturally, will be the demon lords ruling over your own territories under my command. This description of the future caused fluctuations in the aura of the three demons. Although they were high-ranking demons in Hell, the positions of demon lords had long been carved up by various factions, and the path to advancement was almost completely blocked. If not for this, they would never have risked being eternally hunted by Mephisto to defect with Blackheart to Earth, a place watched over by numerous ancient gods. That dimension, and the opportunity for advancement, is our only chance. Water Demon's voice was like congealed ice. Exactly. Blackheart's eyes gleamed with ambitious light. The essence of the Hell dimension is extremely special. It is not completely dominated by a single entity. Asgard, Olympus, Egypt, all have a share in it. Mephisto merely occupies the largest and most well-known fragment. The true Lord of Hell may have long been asleep, or perhaps already fallen. This gives us an opportunity to carve out our own underworld, like Hela, the goddess of death, and Hades, the king of the underworld. He had indeed discovered a medium-sized dimension that was not entirely occupied, but an ancient Skyfather-level monster was entrenched there. With his current power, he was completely unable to contend with it. Therefore, the power of the fallen souls within the San Venganza contract became an indispensable key in his plan. Those were 3,000 holy spirits that Mephisto had painstakingly collected and corrupted, containing extremely powerful dark energy, enough to allow him to achieve a leap in strength. Unfortunately, the previous guardian of the contract, that Ghost Rider, under the intervention of Sorcerer Supreme Gu Yi, betrayed Mephisto and hid the contract. According to our timeline, the previous Ghost Rider, Carter Slade, due to his prolonged failure to execute judgment, his power has long since dwindled, and his lifespan is nearing its end, Water Demon calmly analyzed. As a fellow Ghost Rider, Carter Slade might well hand over the contract to that newly awakened fellow. Blackheart nodded. We cannot directly go after Carter Slade. That old man is a tough nut to crack. He would rather his soul be annihilated than hand over the contract. Moreover, the contract is sealed by the magic array of the Sanctum Sanctorum. Without the correct method, we cannot sense its aura at all. I still don't understand. Air Demon questioned again. If the power of the San Venganza contract is truly as mighty as you say, why wouldn't the Sanctum Sanctorum personally guard it strictly, instead of entrusting it to a dying Ghost Rider? Blackheart paused slightly. This was also a doubt that had always existed in his mind. But in the face of such immense temptation, this small doubt seemed insignificant. Who can fathom Ancient One's thoughts? Perhaps to her, this is merely a farce within the hell demons. But as long as the contract is not within the Sanctum Sanctorum, it is our chance. He waved his hand, ending the discussion. Let's go. We will find Carter Slade's hiding place. Then, we will patiently await our messenger. This hunt has only just begun. Meanwhile, in the tranquil courtyard of Kamar Taj, Sorcerer Ancient One was leisurely sipping a cup of hot tea when her movements suddenly paused ever so slightly. A knowing smile flashed in her ancient yet clear eyes, and she murmured to herself, such troublesome children, always wanting to break the existing order. She put down her teacup, her gaze seemingly piercing through endless void, landing on the ghostly image of an old man in ancient ceremonial robes, hidden in the dimensional shadows. That phantom had no power fluctuations, cleverly evading the detection of the Vishanti array, but still could not escape Ancient One's notice. However, she had no intention of acting. Ancient One had long decided to leave this matter to Yi Feng and the church, and she would not directly intervene. This was an excellent trial for the young successor, allowing him to familiarize himself in advance with the various troubles he would face as Sorcerer Supreme in the future. Especially those cunning and powerful dimensional demon gods. Paving the way in advance, so thoughtful, even I am touched. Ancient One chuckled softly, picking up her teacup and taking another sip. Time flowed quietly, and 2 days had passed in the blink of an eye. In the desolate wilderness of Texas, the traces of that fierce battle were still evident: cracked earth, scorched soil, and a particularly conspicuous human-shaped crater. Hey, Logan, do you think he wasn't really hit so hard by you that his brain broke and he became a vegetable? It's been 2 days and 2 nights, and there's no sign of him waking up. Clarice squatted at the edge of the pit, looking worriedly at Johnny Blaze, who was still unconscious below. Logan, a cigar dangling from his mouth, frowned and scratched his head uncomfortably. It shouldn't be that bad, right? That kid is very tough when he transforms. I knew what I was doing. His tone didn't sound very confident. After all, he had been quite invested in beating him up that night. Hiss. Ah. Just as the two began to doubt life, a faint gasp came from the bottom of the pit. Immediately after, the figure at the bottom of the pit stirred. Johnny Blaze struggled to open his eyes, his gaze unfocused and full of bewilderment. He felt as if every bone in his body was dislocated, especially his cheeks and ribs, where dull pain pulsed. Where is this? His voice was hoarse and dry, almost impossible to make out. You're finally awake. A clear, melodious female voice entered Johnny Blaze's ears, like a ray of light piercing through the chaotic darkness. He struggled to open his eyes, his vision blurry for a long moment before it gradually focused. It looks like there's nothing serious, a rough, low male voice followed. Johnny shook his still groggy head, enduring the intense pain that felt like his entire body was falling apart, and with the support of his elbows, he laboriously sat up from the cold ground. He looked around and found himself at the bottom of a huge pit, surrounded by fresh earth cross-section. Who are you? His voice was hoarse and dry as he looked up at the two people standing before him. It was a man and a woman. The man was exceptionally tall and burly, with a cigar in his mouth and sharp eyes. The woman, on the other hand, seemed a bit peculiar. Her red hair was like a burning fire, and her emerald green eyes were so deep they seemed to captivate one's soul. Her beauty carried a hint of the demonic, making her unforgettable. For some reason, Johnny felt these two looked familiar. Do you remember what happened? The burly man removed his cigar, exhaled a puff of smoke, and his gaze fell on Johnny. What happened? Why am I in this place? Johnny tried to recall, but his mind was blank, with only fragmented pieces. Just then, a massive torrent of memories suddenly crashed into his consciousness, and the intense dizziness made his vision go white. He fell back down. Hey, are you alright? The red-haired woman stepped forward, her tone filled with concern. Buddy, hang in there, you can't collapse here. The burly man also frowned. Johnny held his head in his hands and took a while to recover before the tearing headache finally subsided a little. He raised his pale face, his forehead covered in cold sweat. I probably know what happened. But, before we talk about any of that. His stomach rumbled uncontrollably. Can I please eat something first? I feel like I'm starving to death. He had been unconscious for 2 days and 2 nights, and coupled with the exhaustion from transforming and fighting earlier, his physical and mental energy were completely depleted. Of course. Clarice, the red-haired woman, nodded and lightly swiped her hand through the air. A purple portal instantly appeared before Johnny, with the other end of the portal leading to the flat ground above the pit. This is a portal. Johnny's eyes widened as he stared in surprise at the supernatural scene. He then looked closely at the standard combat uniforms worn by the two, which bore clear insignia of the papacy. He suddenly remembered something, and a light of hope shone in his eyes. Wait, you're from the papacy. You're the Saint Seiya Legion, aren't you? Let's talk while you eat. Seeing that Johnny recognized their identities, Logan and Clarice exchanged a look, feeling a little more confident. Passing through the portal to the ground, the group entered the RV, and Logan handed him a large box of steaming hot pizza. Johnny almost snatched it, wolfing down several large bites, before he felt a little warmth return to his cold body. Tell me, how did you get involved with hell? Logan sat on the sofa at the entrance of the RV and asked directly. Johnny's chewing slowed, and an expression of pain and regret appeared on his face. He took a deep breath and finally decided to confess to the people from the papacy. It was over a decade ago. My father had a terminal illness, and the doctor said he couldn't be saved. It was then that an old man claiming to be the Hell Lord Mephisto found me. He paused, as if reliving that desperate moment. He said that if I was willing to sell my soul to him, he could cure my father. Then, he produced a contract. I didn't even have time to read what was written on it. I just felt a sharp pain in my finger, and blood dripped onto it. Johnny clenched his fists. But in the end, that liar still killed my father. For the next decade, everything was calm. I only knew that I seemed to have become immortal. Without his permission, I wouldn't get hurt or die. Until a few days ago, I saw him again. Johnny's voice began to tremble. From then on, I felt something was wrong with my body. Until 2 nights ago, I completely turned into that monster you saw. He painfully covered his face. The terrifying experience of his first transformation into the Ghost Rider, and the uncontrolled, berserk power, still left him with lingering fear. Mephisto. The legendary Hell Lord. This time we've run into a tough opponent. He's not like Valak, who we dealt with before. What else did he make you do? Logan's expression instantly became incredibly solemn, and he exhaled a thick puff of smoke. He wanted me to find a contract. He said that if I found that contract and gave it to him, I could get my soul back. But the specific details, I can't quite remember. Johnny tried hard to recall. A contract. It seems that the demons who smuggled themselves onto Earth this time are also likely after this contract. Something that can simultaneously attract the covetousness of Mephisto and a large number of demons. Clarice was thoughtful. This matter must be reported to His Holiness immediately. It involves a Hell Lord. It's already beyond our jurisdiction. Logan said decisively. As soon as Johnny heard the word, His Holiness, his eyes immediately lit up. He, of course, knew who it referred to. At the global live broadcast of the sanctuary's papal succession ceremony a few days ago, that being revered as a human divine emissary possessed unfathomable power. Clarice quickly took out a specialized communicator and dialed a number. After a brief waiting tone, a calm yet magnetic voice came through. What is it? Your Holiness, we have an important situation to report to you. Clarice succinctly recounted what had happened in the past few days, including how they found Johnny, his contract with Mephisto, and the mission to find another contract. Logan supplemented the details about the Ghost Rider's transformation and combat. A burning skeleton. I know, it's the Ghost Rider, the legendary emissary who judges sin. Some related information is recorded in the ancient texts of the papacy. A cardinal also once provided information about the Ghost Rider and the contract. You can contact him later. Yi Feng's voice remained steady. You don't need to worry too much about Mephisto. I have my own way of dealing with that old fellow. He continued. Whatever those demons are looking for, or whatever other schemes they have, must be nipped in the bud. Yi Feng gave brief instructions and clearly requested Logan and his team to bring Johnny Blaze back to the sanctuary after handling the follow-up matters, then ended the call. Far away in the sanctum, Yi Feng slowly put down the communicator, his fingertips rhythmically tapping the smooth tabletop, producing a crisp sound. He was the only one in the spacious council hall, and the afterglow of the setting sun cast dappled light and shadow on the floor through the stained glass windows. Ghost Rider, San Venganza contract, he murmured to himself, his thoughts racing. This plot was similar to the framework he understood, but his intuition told him that a deeper vortex lurked beneath the surface of the water. He absolutely did not believe that Blackheart, Mephisto's son, would be so naive as to think that merely relying on a few thousand fallen holy souls could challenge his cunning and ancient Hell Lord father, who had ruled the Hell dimension for countless years. What was a demon who had just touched the threshold of Skyfather level, even if strengthened, in front of a true demon king? According to his vague memory, after Blackheart obtained the soul power, he didn't have time to digest it, leaving himself a fatal flaw, and was eventually easily counter-killed by Ghost Rider's penance stare. Even the few elemental demons under his command were defeated somewhat hastily, completely failing to demonstrate the troublesome nature that high-level demons should possess. Unless Blackheart has other backing. It seems there are some secrets hidden within Blackheart. Yi Feng's fingers paused, a flash of insight in his eyes. This incident was undoubtedly his first indirect confrontation with the Hell Lord Mephisto. Even if it was just a projection or a scheme of Mephisto, he could use this opportunity to glimpse the depths of the legendary Demon King. Moreover, Sorcerer Supreme Ji Yi entrusting this matter to him might have been to aid his plans. The name of Hell Lord Mephisto can certainly be put to good use. A meaningful arc curved on Yi Feng's lips. He thought of the mutant threat theory that had quietly emerged globally recently, and the mutant registration bills secretly pushed by certain national governments. Perhaps, this demon invasion incident could be an opportunity to turn public opinion and counterattack. The key was how to operate to maximize the benefits. Those well-informed high-ranking officials and financial magnates of various countries must have heard about the appearance of demons, and their fear and needs were precisely where leverage could be found. On the other side, in the desolate outskirts, with Yi Feng's clear instructions, Logan and Clarice's hanging hearts largely settled. They had personally witnessed Yi Feng's cataclysmic battle with the Duke Valak through the Vatican's recorded footage. Had it not been for the golden barrier at the end, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Even though Yi Feng used his power to restore the land after the battle, the remaining traces were enough to indicate the intensity of the fight. Logan knew his limits. He was certainly no match for Valak now. At most he could barely contend with his immortality, let alone Mephisto, who was terrifyingly stronger than Valak. With Yi Feng as their fallback, the pressure of their mission suddenly decreased significantly. Since the San Venganza contract is in the hands of the previous Ghost Rider, Carter Slade, and Mephisto ordered you to find it. Then, whether it's the demons who snuck in or the hidden Carter Slade, they will inevitably pay attention to you. We need to actively guide this attention. Logan relit a cigar and analyzed. Where should we look for them? Johnny Blaze asked. His understanding of the supernatural world was limited. First, gather information. We need to know more about the San Venganza contract. Logan looked at Clarice, motioning for her to contact the Cardinal Yi Feng had mentioned earlier. Clarice immediately contacted the Vatican via an encrypted channel. Shortly after the message was sent back, a highly experienced cardinal called back directly. How did you learn about the San Venganza contract? The cardinal's voice was old and heavy. My Lord Cardinal, we are acting on His Eminence's orders to deal with the incident of demons infiltrating the real dimension. We met the new Ghost Rider, Johnny Blaze, and he mentioned this contract. Clarice replied respectfully. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the phone, followed by a long sigh. So that's it, the records left by my late father were actually true. He participated in handling matters related to that contract during his lifetime. At that time, the Vatican still had the capacity to use holy relics imbued with divine power. Unfortunately, that operation came at a heavy cost. My father never returned, and the holy relic was also damaged. After that, all news about the contract was completely cut off. After I was promoted to cardinal, I secretly investigated but found nothing. San Venganza had long been reduced to ruins, and everything was buried by time. The old cardinal's voice carried the sadness of recollection. Although he had submitted relevant intelligence, it did not receive much attention from the Vatican at the time. Or rather, the Vatican, having lost its last holy relic, was no longer able to intervene in such matters. Subsequently, the old cardinal provided Clarice with the coordinates of San Venganza that he knew. My Lord Cardinal, do you know the whereabouts of Carter Slade? Clarice pressed. I regret, I do not know. But according to the information left by my late father and what I have found, he should be a ghost writer who betrayed Mephisto. And also the guardian of the San Venganza contract. The old cardinal replied. Thank you very much for your help, my Lord Cardinal. Clarice sincerely thanked him before ending the call. What now? Johnny looked at the two, not expecting even the Vatican's records to be so limited. Finding Carter Slade was still like searching for a needle in a haystack. It seems waiting for them won't work. We need to actively create some commotion. Let them find us. Instead of passively waiting, it's better to take the initiative. Logan extinguished his cigar, a wolf-like keen glint in his eyes. How exactly? Johnny asked curiously. Make some noise. But this time, the commotion needs to be big, eye-catching enough. Ideally, it should be so big that all beings concerned know that the new Ghost Rider is here, and he is investigating the whereabouts of the contract. Whether it's the demons of hell or the hidden Carter Slade, as long as they see you, they will inevitably be unable to resist showing themselves and making contact. You return to the city first and begin your judgment. Those scumbags don't deserve to live. Logan was concise. The three did not agree on a specific gathering place. Logan let Johnny act freely, following his heart to judge evil. If Yi Feng could hear Logan's plan at this moment, he would certainly nod in approval. This coincided with his idea of using the opportunity to expand his influence. I understand. Johnny Blaze nodded. Since this was currently the only way, he could only cooperate. According to existing intelligence, Ghost Rider's power could only be fully manifested at night. With Clarice's portal assistance, Johnny quietly returned to the city to handle some private matters and rest, preparing for the night's operation. Logan and Clarice drove their modified RV back to the urban area along the highway. Everyone, you've been busy for days, and all you've given me is this fragmented information. Inside the intelligence department's safe house, a stern-faced director slammed a thin stack of documents onto the table, his voice filled with suppressed fury. The atmosphere in the office was heavy, and his subordinates bowed their heads, not daring to meet his gaze. Director, the clues are simply too few. If we really can't explain it to the higher-ups, perhaps we could attribute the incident to a mutant. A young agent cautiously suggested. Foolish. The director slammed his hand on the table, the rage in his eyes almost erupting. A burning skull. A robber stared to death. And that tunnel, almost half destroyed. All of this, plus the Holy See's forceful intervention not long ago, directly silencing the local police department. With this string of events, you still dare to use the excuse of a mutant to fool me. He took a deep breath, trying to calm himself. The big shot my lords want concrete intelligence about demons, not for us to once again pin the blame on mutants. Ever since the footage of Yi Feng's battle with Earl Valak of Snakes circulated among the higher echelons, top officials from various countries have been collecting information on hell and demons. What they found, once they started looking, was that across the globe, there had been hidden records of similar demonic activities throughout history, but most of them eventually faded into obscurity, as if an invisible hand had erased their traces. Now, with real demons reappearing and the Holy See acting frequently, the higher-ups urgently needed first-hand information to assess the situation. The military had even drawn up emergency plans. They wanted to know if modern weapons could truly deal with these legendary monsters. Some things couldn't just be taken at the Holy See's word. Even after seeing the shocking battle footage, they needed to verify it themselves. Listen. Mobilize all resources for comprehensive surveillance of the target area. I don't care if it's people from the Holy See, a burning skull, or some other dark creature. As long as there's any unusual movement, you are to keep a tight watch. I want the most real-time, direct on-site footage and data. The director finally ordered, his voice tinged with weariness but unequivocal. The most elite intelligence department, after 2 days, had only obtained such scraps, it was a joke to even mention it. But he also understood that sending ordinary agents to investigate events involving the supernatural and hell was inherently life-threatening, and his subordinates' fear was understandable. Yet, in his position, he had to execute orders. Holy see, demons. He cursed under his breath, walking to the window and gazing at the setting sun about to dip below the city skyline, a sense of powerlessness filling his heart. At the same time, Logan and Clarice had quietly returned to the city. They contacted the sanctuary conglomerate's local personnel, properly handled the modified RV, and had non-essential personnel temporarily evacuate this part of the city to avoid being affected by the upcoming battle. Currently, the two stood atop a skyscraper, facing the rising evening breeze, silently waiting for night to fully descend. Time ticked by, and as the last glow of sunset was swallowed by the horizon, the city's neon lights illuminated one by one, replacing the natural light. Boom. Boom boom. The violent roar of a motorcycle engine approached from afar, like a beast's howl, tearing through the city's night sky. They're here. Logan's eyes sharpened, and he immediately looked in the direction of the sound. He could clearly sense that Johnny Blaze had successfully transformed into the Ghost Rider, and as planned, was unreservedly releasing the Hellfire energy, filled with the scent of sulfur and burning. This arrogant energy fluctuation, like a lighthouse in the darkness, not only attracted Logan and Clarice's attention but also instantly alarmed the entities lurking in the city's shadows. In a certain abandoned house, Blackheart's pale fingers stopped tapping the damp pipe wall, and a hint of interest appeared on his twisted face. Oh. Missing for 2 days, I thought some passing hero had conveniently cleaned him up. It seems our Mr. Rider has recovered well, full of vigor. He smiled chillingly, radiating a cold-killing intent. After 2 days of fruitless waiting, he was very irritable. The Ghost Rider caused a huge commotion, so much so that even ordinary citizens noticed the anomaly. It was the beginning of the night, and there were still many pedestrians and vehicles on the streets. God! What is that? A burning skull. Riding a motorcycle. Am I drunk? Is it a new mutant? Or some movie special effect? Gasps of surprise echoed through the streets and alleys, some fled in fear, while others curiously pulled out their phones to film. The intelligence department also received reports immediately. The target has finally reappeared. Where are the military personnel? Follow them, maintain a safe distance. Remember, the opponent is likely not acting alone, people from the Holy See must be nearby. The director stared at the real-time footage, gritting his teeth. He recalled the bodies in the tunnel, killed by strange forces, which clearly did not match the style of this fiery, lava-like skull. Coupled with the Holy See's intervention, whether it was a demon at work or not, this situation was deeper than imagined, and they, as ordinary people, had to be extremely cautious. Johnny Blaze completely ignored the helicopters tracking him overhead, this perfectly aligned with their plan. Following the intuition for sin within him, he rode his Hell motorcycle towards the city's dirtiest corners. Deep within a dark alley, two groups were engaged in an illegal transaction. The roar of the motorcycle approached from afar, instantly putting them on alert. What's that sound? Go out and see. However, the lookout who ran to the alley entrance let out a blood-curdling scream and then fell silent. The people in the alley immediately fell into disarray, pulling out their guns. Is it a double cross? Protect the goods. The money. Watch the money box. Flashes of fire flickered at the alley entrance, accompanied by the clatter of dragging chains. Before they could even see clearly, a chain burning with hellfire shot into the alley like a venomous snake. Fire! Kill him! Someone shouted, and a barrage of bullets poured towards the alley entrance like rain. However, the bullets striking the burning figure were like mud oxen entering the sea, only sparking tiny flames. A deep voice, as if from purgatory, rang out. You are guilty. Monster. It's a mutant monster. Kill him. Just then, from the deeper shadows of the alley, several ninjas dressed in black and wielding katanas silently appeared. Their movements were as swift as wind, and their blade glints were sharp, clearly not ordinary gang members. The hand ninjas. Clarice, from above, recognized the black-clad, sword-wielding figures at a glance, a hint of surprise in her tone. The hand. You've dealt with them. Logan raised an eyebrow. He had spent years on various battlefields and knew little about ninja organizations hidden in the shadows. I had contact with them last time when I followed His Eminence to deal with a vampire incident. But at that time, those ninjas were easily dispatched by His Eminence. Afterward, His Eminence didn't seem to investigate this organization further. I wonder what deeper considerations he had. Clarice recalled. Interesting. A playful smile appeared on Logan's face. He understood Yi Feng's style of action, he would never let an enemy off easily. His temporary inaction must be part of a larger, long-term plan. The street fight below was almost a one-sided slaughter. Although the hand ninjas were well-trained and far superior to ordinary people, they were still no match for Johnny, who had transformed into Ghost Rider. The chains, imbued with hellfire, were like the god of Death's whip, each swing carrying destructive power. The ninjas' katanas melted the moment they touched the chains, and their bodies were ignited by hellfire, turning into charred remains amidst their agonizing screams, not even leaving a complete corpse. The gangsters conducting illegal transactions were even more terrified, abandoning their comrades' bodies and scattered loot, fleeing in all directions. Helicopters high in the sky clearly filmed all of this, transmitting it back to headquarters in real time. Completely different from the previous murders. The analyst reported. Continue surveillance. Focus on recording his attack methods, defensive capabilities, and movement speed. Whether he's the same as before or not, this appearance, who would believe he isn't from hell? We need to assess his threat level, and whether our weapons are effective. The person in charge stared intently at the screen. Although the style was different, the burning skull image itself was extremely impactful. He added with a solemn look, "Let me see with my own eyes if you are truly a demon from hell." As for the killed gangsters, in his opinion, they deserved to die. He wouldn't trade the precious lives of his subordinates for the lives of these scum. The alley was filled with the pungent smell of sulfur. The fleeing gang members were caught one by Johnny, either turning into charcoal in the flames or dying from their souls being scorched by the penance stare. Screams of agony echoed in the night sky, sending chills down one's spine. "Oh, a burning skull, you're having a lot of fun." A chilling voice suddenly rang out. At some point, Blackheart and his 3 elemental subordinates had appeared around Johnny, surrounding him. "I can't sense their aura at all. Is it being concealed by some power?" Logan's expression from above was grave. It wasn't surprising that the opponents, having snuck into the real dimension, possessed the ability to hide their aura, but this indeed increased the difficulty of dealing with them. "Clarice, be careful. If a real fight breaks out, I might not be able to look after you." Logan cautioned his companion. Although the girl was strong and had the elemental blessing bestowed by Yi Feng, it was impossible to be too careful when facing high-level demons. "Don't worry, I'll evacuate immediately if things go south." Clarice's tone was relaxed, but her eyes sparkled with excitement, clearly anticipating the upcoming battle. "You are guilty." Ghost Rider's low voice echoed like a sound from hell. The spirit of vengeance within Johnny burned even more fiercely, even affecting the helicopters in the sky with its scorching heat, forcing them to climb higher again. "Get the military ready." The person in charge issued an order through the communicator. "Evacuate the surrounding population, and if there's an opportunity, conduct saturation bombing." He stared sharply at the screen. The battle between these 5 extraordinary beings was no longer something ordinary firearms or troops could intervene in. It was time to test the effectiveness of heavy weapons. "Where is the San Venganza contract?" Blackheart stared at Johnny, his tone filled with impatience. Every second he stayed on Earth increased the risk of being discovered by Sorcerer Supreme Ji Yi. Thinking of that terrifying being who had slain numerous interdimensional demon gods, Blackheart felt a chill down his spine. But what he didn't know was that his every move was already under Ji Yi's surveillance. Johnny didn't waste words. The hellfire on his body suddenly surged, and the chains wrapped around his arms lashed out like living things, a piercing sound cutting through the air, targeting all 4 demons simultaneously. "You're asking for death. Get him." Blackheart ordered with a gloomy expression. His 3 elementals immediately rushed out. Their elementalized bodies rendered the chains' attacks ineffective. "Oh. They are also users of elemental power." Logan and Clarice were slightly surprised. Wind howled, water surged, the earth trembled. The elementals displayed the true strength of high-level demons at this moment. As first-tier combatants below Skyfather level, they might not be top-tier in hell, but on Earth, they were definitely at the pinnacle of power. Just a single charge destroyed buildings on both sides of the alley, their destructive power astonishing, like a natural disaster descending. Get away from here. The person in charge on the helicopter felt the rising heat and realized the danger was escalating. High temperatures, strong winds, steam, if they stayed any longer, they would truly be cooked. Notify them to execute a saturation attack, saturation bombing. The person in charge's face became ferocious. But the Vatican? An intelligence officer looked hesitant. This is the United States. We have the right to deal with attacks as we see fit. The person in charge's tone was firm. Even if people from the Vatican die in there, they brought it upon themselves. The previous footage had been fully recorded, so even if the Vatican held them accountable afterward, they would have an explanation. Understood. The intelligence officer quickly relayed the coordinates and orders. Soon, countless flashes of fire pierced the night sky, and the roar of tanks and long-range artillery was deafening. The violent aesthetics of modern warfare were fully displayed at this moment. Well, they actually did it. Logan and Clarice on a distant high-rise watched with solemn expressions as the area was engulfed in a sea of fire. However, at the center of the battlefield, the four demons and Johnny were unharmed by the bombardment. Explosions erupted one after another, and the battle continued, but it was clear that Johnny was at a distinct disadvantage. His Ghost Rider power had only just awakened, and facing three elementals who cooperated seamlessly, he was overwhelmed. Speak. Where is the San Venganza contract? The Wind Demon's elementalized hand pressed against Johnny's face, plowing deep furrows in the ground. The artillery bombardment continued, but its impact on these extraordinary beings, who were not purely flesh and blood, was limited. Coupled with the elementals' power to counteract it, its effect was minimal. You want the San Venganza contract? You're dreaming. Johnny struggled fiercely, and the flames from the surrounding explosions seemed to be drawn to him, gathering in front of him, then erupting in a sky-shattering blaze. Boom. The ground within several kilometers shook violently, and the glass of surrounding buildings shattered in response. The screams of ordinary people rose and fell, and the entire area was engulfed in a sea of fire. No use. The head of the intelligence department looked at the center of the battlefield in disbelief. Although the bombardment cleared the surrounding building debris, making the view clearer, the 5 individuals in the field remained standing, even their clothes intact. This is impossible. He angrily slammed his fist against the cabin wall. Such intensive heavy firepower bombardment should have melted steel, but these 5 beings were unscathed. Do we have to use a nuclear bomb? The thought flashed through his mind, but he neither had the authority nor dared to use such a weapon in a densely populated area. Demons, are these the demons the Vatican speaks of? Right, the Vatican, where are the Vatican's people? He muttered to himself, then seemed to remember something. He searched with binoculars and finally spotted Logan and Clarice on a distant high-rise. Their pure white Vatican combat uniforms were particularly conspicuous against the dark night sky. What are they thinking? The city has been destroyed like this, why aren't they acting? The person in charge roared in frustration. A subordinate beside him hesitated to speak. You've already launched a saturation attack, who would be foolish enough to rush in? The lives of Vatican members are also lives. Through the binoculars, the person in charge saw Logan looking in their direction, his lips moving slightly, clearly mouthing a single word. Scram. The person in charge's expression flickered. Their intentions had been exposed, and staying longer was pointless. Moreover, Logan had given a clear warning. Thinking of the other party's performance in the Battle of New York, he had no doubt about the strength of this Vatican powerhouse. Order, retreat. Finally, he reluctantly gave the order. This supernatural confrontation was no longer something ordinary people like them could interfere with. The mortal rats are finally gone. Now, it's our turn. Logan stretched his body, looking at the battle below, his body trembling slightly with excitement. He had never thought that he would feel excited about battle. He had grown tired of killing during the nearly 2 centuries of his life. His cosmos surged, and Logan's body floated slightly. HMPH. He threw a punch. The air was instantly shattered, and extreme wind pressure spread downwards. There's more. Blackheart instantly locked onto Logan and Clarice's position. Buzz. A purple spatial portal suddenly opened, and Clarice charged out directly. A smile played on her lips, and her body was wreathed in flames. A flying kick struck the wind demon, who flew backward and crashed into the ground in the distance. Johnny also quickly got up. Where are you looking? Logan's figure also descended onto the battlefield at supersonic speed. The moment he landed, he kicked directly into the earth, and the earth demon was directly shaken out of the ground by Logan. The water demon also quickly retreated to Blackheart's side. I didn't expect you to have help. Blackheart's eyes were dark, radiating killing intent. He was sure he had been exposed. But he didn't know why the Sorcerer Supreme's mages hadn't dealt with them. Now, we'll play with you. Logan's deep voice resonated, his feet firmly rooted to the earth. Below him, the ground was experiencing violent spasms, as if two giant dragons were wrestling deep beneath the surface. That was the earth authority Yi Feng had bestowed upon him, fiercely clashing with the earth demon's innate element control, madly vying for control of the area. This is impossible. How can you, a mere human, have such a profound resonance and control over the earth? The earth demon's face was extremely grim, a mix of shock and fury. He never expected that he would be forcibly shaken out of the earth, his very means of survival and concealment, by a human using the purest form of power. This was an unprecedented experience in his long life. In the past, his opponents either crushed him with absolute power, leaving him no room to retaliate, or were passively beaten in his own domain. To be challenged, and even fall behind, in pure element control, as he was today, was an utter disgrace. Too much talk. Clarice, standing nearby, impatiently flexed her wrists and ankles, and a burst of scorching fire erupted around her with a boom. Though she had yet to comprehend the mysteries of the cosmos, her mastery over the fire element had reached a peak of perfection. The surging flames emitted an astonishing heatwave, causing even Ghost Rider Johnny to glance over, the hellfire in his skeletal eye sockets flickering slightly. Perfect. I'm curious, if we capture your friends, will you still be as calm as you are now? Blackheart wasn't angered by Logan and Clarice's sudden intervention. Instead, a cold smile played on his lips. There was no warmth in that smile, only chilling calculation and cruelty. Seize them. With such a commotion, we must have been exposed. The sanctuaries' sorcerers still haven't appeared, so we must act quickly and end this battle swiftly. He no longer hesitated, giving a cold command. You want to take us hostage? Then come and try. Logan's eyes flashed with fierce light, his anger turning into a laugh. Before his words faded, the ground beneath his feet cracked open, and he shot forward like a cannonball, tearing through the air, instantly breaking the sound barrier with a piercing roar as he charged directly at Blackheart. Interesting. I'll personally play with you. Blackheart's pupils constricted slightly. He instantly judged Logan to be the strongest fighter on the opposing side, his strength nearly matching his own. He met Logan without hesitation, while simultaneously calculating, the elementals, 3 against 2, if they couldn't quickly take down the little girl who could teleport and the Hellfire skeleton, then these so-called allies were truly useless. The battle escalated again in an instant. This suburban area on the city's edge was already unrecognizable, the ground covered in deep pits and cracks, the air filled with the acrid smell of burning, sulfur, and dust, completely transformed into a brutal battlefield where transcendent powers clashed indiscriminately. Far away in Kamar Taj, it was serene, peaceful, and detached from the world. Ancient One sat cross-legged in the tranquil courtyard, a warm, white mist rising from the clear tea in the coarse pottery cup beside him. You've arrived. Are you ready? He didn't turn around, his voice calm. Yes, I'm ready. Yi Feng's figure appeared silently beside Ancient One, his voice steady. Involving a dimensional demon god of Mephisto's caliber, Yi Feng naturally couldn't completely let go and ignore it. He had gradually handed over the daily affairs of the papacy to the old pope and the trustworthy Cardinal College, while he focused on grasping the general direction and dealing with threats on the transcendent level. Ancient One slowly rose. His figure was not tall, even appearing somewhat slender. But who would have thought that this seemingly ordinary bald old man was the Sorcerer Supreme, renowned across various dimensions? He casually waved his hand, his movements fluid and natural, as if plucking an invisible string. The space before them immediately tore open into a shimmering orange-sparked portal. Yi Feng keenly noticed that Ancient One did not use artifacts like the sling ring when casting spells. This meant his control over magic had reached perfection. He had likely completely tamed the borrowed dimensional power and made it his own. The other end of the portal was a mirror dimension, overlapping with reality yet existing independently. Ancient One and Yi Feng's entry caused no ripple whatsoever. The fierce battle outside played out around them like a silent holographic projection. Such exquisite spatial magic construction. Yi Feng's gaze swept over the stable mirror dimension, genuinely admiring it. In terms of intricacy, this magic was in no way inferior to the Gemini's spatial profoundness he commanded. Whether it was the Bermuda Triangle's strangeness or the dimensional space's banishing power, each had its unique strengths. While this mirror dimension was slightly weaker in offensive capability, its precise control over space and isolating effect would undoubtedly create a huge tactical advantage against opponents of the same level, making it a domain that could be altered at will. His gaze turned beyond the space, where the melee had reached a fever pitch. He could even clearly see Logan's powerful fist, carrying a gust of wind, passing outside the spatial barrier in front of his nose, yet unable to touch it in the slightest, not even a whisper of air disturbance could pass through. Ancient One's control over power was truly at its peak. These two subordinates of yours are quite formidable. Is the power burning within him what you call the cosmos? Ancient One's gaze fell on Logan, a hint of admiration flashing in his eyes. In his perception, Logan's body seemed to transform into a miniature universe, the light of stars flowing through his blood. It was a power unleashed by the perfect combination of physical potential and spiritual will, pure and domineering, even capable of touching the most minute structures of matter, with astonishing destructive force. On the battlefield, Blackheart, as Mephisto's son, grew up amidst the blood and gore of hell, possessing incredibly rich combat experience and an exceptionally strong demonic body. However, Logan was equally unyielding, his battle instincts honed by countless wars, combined with the superhuman recovery granted by his X-gene, and further aided by the refined combat techniques of the Saint Seiya legacy, making him a perfect fighting machine in close quarters. Their duel was a paradigm of violent aesthetics. They almost completely abandoned unnecessary evasion. Apart from attacks aimed at vital points, everything else was met with brute force. Fists clashed, elbows struck, each contact erupting in a dull sonic boom, constantly distorting the surrounding air. The ground beneath their feet suffered even more, constantly shattering and collapsing under their wild, powerful stomps and blows. The battle on the other side, though 3 against 2, saw Clarice and Johnny cooperating with ease. Clarice's figure was elusive, countless purple spatial portals opening and closing around her. While unable to directly cut the elementals, it greatly disrupted their movements, especially the Earth Demon, who was disoriented by the unpredictable spatial shifts. Johnny, meanwhile, wielded a chain burning with hellfire. Wherever it passed, even the air ignited. In the hellish legal system, hellfire was one of the highest priority elements, naturally suppressing the wind, water, and earth elements, forcing the water demon and fire demon to constantly move and evade. If we drag this out any longer, they'll wear us down to death. The wind demon shrieked in the air, the swirling gales attempting to disperse the hellfire, but with little effect. The water demon transformed into flowing water, circling the edge of the battlefield, seeking an opportunity, but was constantly forced back by Johnny's flames and Clarice's spatial barriers. The most aggrieved was the earth demon. He felt as if the heavy earth around him had been locked by an invisible force. The earth element, once at his beck and call, now felt sluggish and unresponsive. He couldn't draw power from the earth to replenish himself at all. Each time Johnny's hellfire grazed him, a portion of his elemental body would evaporate. This continuous weakening made him feel the threat of death. Boom. Just then, Logan and Blackheart's battle reached a climax. Logan burned his cosmos to the extreme, and the brilliant star chart of Taurus faintly appeared behind him. He roared, his arms unleashing earth-shattering power, actually tearing up a large section of the ground beneath his feet and hurling it at Blackheart like a small meteor. Titan Nova. Come on. Blackheart also roared, revealing his complete, terrifying demonic true form. Dense corrupting power spread from him. Wherever it passed, the few remaining bits of greenery instantly withered and perished, and the earth became pitch black and desolate. The massive rock crashed down, and the impact it caused violently shook the entire city. Even with the mirror dimension isolating them, Ancient One and Yi Feng could feel that irresistible force. If this blow had landed directly in the city, it would have been enough to cause a localized earthquake. Those fools. Can't they make less noise? The military police, who were busy evacuating civilians and setting up quarantine zones in the distance, felt the tremors beneath their feet and couldn't help but curse. They couldn't get close to the core combat zone at all. There, strong winds raged, flames scorched the sky, steam billowed, and the earth shook. Both in the air and on the ground, deadly energy turbulence filled the space. The last news they received was that the papacy's Saint Seiya Legion had intervened. In the command center, a military high-ranking official looked at the latest report from the front line, his face so gloomy it could drip water. Even a saturation strike can't eliminate those so-called demons. He put down the report and rubbed his temples. The demons' displayed strength far exceeded expectations, and intelligence analysis further pointed to the possible involvement of the legendary Hell Lord Mephisto behind this incident, making it incredibly troublesome. I hope that mysterious sorcerer organization you mentioned is truly reliable. He slumped helplessly into his chair, muttering to himself. When hot weapons lost their absolute deterrent, they lost more than half of their cards. During this period, major global powers were frantically searching for legendary holy relics and mythical artifacts, attempting to decipher the mysteries of transcendent power, but progress was slow, and they even clashed with some hidden transcendent organizations as a result, which was more trouble than it was worth. In the distance, on the edge of a desolate graveyard, an old man with a tattered cowboy hat and a full head of silver hair leaned against a withered tree, his cloudy eyes fixed on the fiery glow rising into the sky and the muffled thuds that occasionally echoed. Is this how strong he is right after awakening? Carter Slade muttered, his voice as hoarse as sandpaper rubbing. He had been in hiding for nearly a century to evade the pursuers sent by Mephisto. The power of the Ghost Rider stemmed from judging sin, and prolonged dormancy had caused this power to continuously wane. His body was also on its last legs, like a candle in the wind, with only enough energy for one final transformation. Sorcerer Supreme, was the opportunity you spoke of back then this very moment. Carter Slade's expression flickered in the shadows. However, he knew his current state, let alone participating in the battle, even approaching the battlefield might shatter his old bones from the residual impact. He could only remain here, a helpless bystander. At the center of the battlefield, Blackheart took the full brunt of Logan's Titan Nova. Infused with the power of Cosmos, the massive rocks that were flung up possessed a density and hardness far exceeding the ordinary, like true extraterrestrial meteorites. Blackheart's dark power, capable of corroding life, found it difficult to quickly disintegrate such a colossal and solid attack. He could only endure it with his demonic body, eventually being violently smashed deep into the ground, stirring up a sky full of dust and forming a huge crater. Blackheart. How could this happen? The elementals' faces changed drastically upon witnessing this, a mix of shock and terror. They never expected that Blackheart, as Mephisto's son, would be suppressed by a human and fall into a disadvantageous position. Who? Logan landed back on the ground, his chest heaving violently as he gasped for breath. Even with the continuous energy drawn from the earth by earth elemental power, performing a gold Saint Seiya technique was still a huge drain on his mental and physical strength. He needed a moment to recover. He's not completely dead yet. These guys from hell really have a tenacious vitality, like cockroaches. Logan looked into the deep pit. He could sense that Blackheart, buried underground, although his aura was chaotic and weakened, had not disappeared and was still struggling violently. Don't think you can easily climb out. Logan roared, pressing his palms heavily onto the cracked earth again. Earthy yellow light spread from his palms, and the surrounding earth and rocks began to frantically squeeze and compact inward under his will, attempting to completely seal Blackheart underground. Don't even think about it. Seeing this, Earth Demon unhesitatingly abandoned his current opponent, his entire body merging with the earth. Underground, he frantically stirred the earth element, attempting to create an escape route for Blackheart. Their current stealth entry into the reality dimension was a desperate gamble. If Blackheart lost, none of the three of them would survive. Earth Demon's departure significantly increased the pressure on Wind Demon and Water Demon. Clarice's control over fire and spatial portals was elusive, and Johnny's hellfire was like maggots in bones, exerting a elemental suppression on Water Demon and Wind Demon. Water Demon's riptide evaporated upon approaching the fire, and wind demon's gales, instead of extinguishing the hellfire, tended to fuel its intensity. Both were struggling, caught between attacks, and in a sorry state. Crack. Rumble. A strange sound came from the bottom of the deep pit. The huge rocks covering Blackheart began to vibrate violently, slowly being pushed upward by a brute force. A corner of Blackheart's broken demonic body was revealed once more. You. True Li. Day Irv. 2. Die. Blackheart's voice was filled with venom and pain, thick black blood constantly overflowing from the corners of his mouth. That was the noble blood of a demon. Taking the Titan Nova head-on had severely wounded him. Stay underground obediently. Clarice. Logan roared. Understood. Clarice understood. A purple spatial portal instantly opened beneath Logan's feet, swallowing him. The next moment, Logan's figure appeared high in the sky. Ha! Accompanied by a fierce shout, Logan's bones rapidly grew and covered his body, instantly metallizing, and his weight surged. He transformed into a human meteorite, plummeting vertically from the sky with the force of thunder, aiming directly at Blackheart, who was attempting to escape. Great Horn. The plummeting force perfectly combined with Taurus's technique, forming a massive energy bull's head phantom that slammed into the giant rocks that had just been pushed up. Boom. The giant rocks shattered into powder on impact. Logan's kick continued its momentum, piercing through layers of obstacles, and precisely landed on Blackheart's chest. PFF'd. A muffled thud came from underground, accompanied by the terrifying sound of bones breaking. The entire earth, centered on the deep pit, collapsed several more meters, and the impact stirred up even denser dust. Ah! Blackheart let out a painful shriek, the intense pain in his chest almost making him faint. But the demon's ferocity was completely ignited. He endured the excruciating pain and, with a backhand, firmly grabbed Logan's ankle. Human. Blackheart's eyes flashed with mad crimson light. Even deep underground, his power was not to be underestimated. Logan's heart sank. He tried to mobilize the earth element to break free, but felt the resistance greatly increased. Clearly Earth Demon was interfering with all his might. Get out of here. Blackheart roared, using all his strength to violently fling Logan out through the passage he had created. Swoosh. Bang. Logan's figure shot out from underground like a cannonball, tumbling a few times in the air before stabilizing himself. Almost at the same time, Blackheart also seized the opportunity to break free from his restraints, standing back on the shattered earth with a body full of wounds and demonic blood. Seeing Blackheart escape, the elementals breathed a slight sigh of relief, but seeing his heavily wounded and disheveled appearance, their hearts sank again. Cough, cough, Blackheart coughed violently, each cough bringing out a little black blood. I didn't expect that besides the Sanctum Sanctorum on earth, there would be beings like you. Who exactly are you? He stared intently at Logan, who was floating in the air, his eyes filled with disbelief and humiliation. The Church, Saint Seiya Legion, Taurus Gold Saint Seiya. James Logan Howlett. The Taurus constellation behind Logan glowed brightly, adding a touch of sacred majesty to his rugged face. The Church. Saint Seiya. Blackheart frowned. He knew about the Church, but what was Saint Seiya? This was completely outside his intelligence. It can't end like this. Blackheart's eyes suddenly became resolute and crazed. He hissed in a low voice, as if making a difficult decision. Blackheart. What are you trying to do? The elementals seemed to realize something, their faces instantly turning pale. As high-ranking demons of hell, they knew some taboo secrets about dimensional origins. Using dimensional power would inevitably alarm Mephisto. I'm not willing to give up like this. Blackheart raised his head, a twisted smile, a mix of pain and madness, on his face. We've caused such a stir, and the Sanctum Sanctorum still hasn't appeared. Either they're tied up with something more important, or our actions haven't yet touched their bottom line. Either way, this is my chance. Before his words finished, an even older, deeper power, seemingly containing some kind of world rule, began to emanate from Blackheart's shattered body. This power carried a terrifying sense of all things returning to silence and all beings sinking into oblivion. Inside the mirror dimension, Ancient One, who had been observing calmly, slightly raised an eyebrow, showing a hint of surprise. What is this? Yi Feng also keenly sensed this special power fluctuation. It gave a nearly rule-like sense of oppression, somewhat similar to the Hades cosmos he knew, cold, as if carrying the wails of all beings. Dimensional power. This little fellow, he's quite bold, actually stealing the hell dimension origin of his father, Mephisto. It seems his ambition isn't just to be a demon prince, but to use this opportunity to open a new hell and become a new hell lord. Ancient One's voice carried a hint of understanding. She had set this trap to draw Mephisto out, but she didn't expect to catch such an interesting fish. Didn't you mention before that you had thoughts of becoming a dimensional lord? It seems there's a ready opportunity now. Ancient One was referring to the wisp of unknown dimensional origin on Blackheart. As long as one obtained it and found an unknown dimension, one could open a new hell. Yi Feng's eyes flickered a few times quickly, then he shook his head. Thank you for your kindness, but this gift is too precious, I dare not accept it. Some truths, Ancient One might not know, but Yi Feng did. The Hell Dimension, seemingly a powerful slice of the multiverse's power cake, with countless demon gods vying for control, was actually more like a giant trap, a prison filled with endless resentment and darkness. Its deepest secret was linked to the dark side of the universe's birth, that slumbering entity, feared even by the supreme gods, the below all things. Yi Feng did not want to have any entanglement, even indirect, with that level of existence prematurely, before his own power system was fully developed. Is that so? Then never mind. Ancient One did not insist, merely assuming Yi Feng leaned more towards the status of a god of light, and redirected her attention back to the outside world. At this moment, Blackheart outside had completely activated that wisp of dimensional power. This power had an extremely high priority, and to some extent, it bypassed part of the monitoring of Kamar Taj's Shield of Eternity array, which was driven by the power of Vishanti, forcibly tearing open a tiny crack connecting to the Hell Dimension within the Earth. The Hell Dimension opened a sliver. Although it was just a tiny crack, pure Hell origin energy surged into Blackheart's body like a breached flood. His demonic body rapidly inflated like a balloon, instantly transforming into a behemoth over 10 meters tall, and the oppressive aura emanating from him climbed exponentially. This made Logan, Clarice, and even Johnny feel their breath catch, their movements becoming sluggish and difficult. Is this Skyfather-level power? It's so wonderful. This is true power. Blackheart felt the unprecedented surge of energy within him, and couldn't help but let out a drunken groan. Carter's slate appears, contracts whereabouts. This is what His Holiness mentioned, Skyfather level. Logan and Clarice gritted their teeth, their muscles tensed, resisting the terrifying pressure that assailed them. Their hearts were filled with awe as they finally experienced firsthand what power beyond their level of comprehension felt like. The air was thick with the smell of sulfur and scorched earth, Hell Dimension energy pressing down on every inch of space as if it were solid. Although the Hell Dimension rift opened by Blackheart had closed, the residual dimensional energy still made the surrounding environment twisted and eerie. You keep him occupied, I need to meet some old friends on the Hell Dimension side. Ancient One's voice was as calm as ever, as if the world-destroying scene before her was nothing more than a minor disturbance. She said to Yi Feng faintly, and her figure rippled and vanished like water, as if she had never existed. Yi Feng nodded slightly, understanding that Ancient One was going to intercept Mephisto's main body, who might be attracted by the commotion, as well as the interference of other dimensional beings on Earth. Hand over the San Venganza contract. Otherwise, I will personally crush each and every one of you, and then torture out what I want from your souls. Blackheart, transformed into a giant demon, roared, his voice like thunder echoing across the entire battlefield. His voice was filled with absolute confidence and killing intent, his crimson eyes scanning the tiny humans below, as if looking at a flock of lambs waiting to be slaughtered. In the distant military command center, the atmosphere was so heavy it could almost be wrung out. Through the blurry images transmitted by high-magnification reconnaissance equipment, the high-ranking officials of the military and intelligence departments watched the suddenly massive demonic figure on the screen, all gasping in cold air. Although the image was constantly distorted by energy interference, its terrifying form was still clearly visible. God, what in the world is that monster? A young staff officer exclaimed, his coffee cup slipping from his hand and shattering on the metal floor. A demon. A true demon. All the warnings in legends are true, these supernatural beings truly threaten our world. The head of the intelligence department slammed his fist on the console, his face ashen. A three-star general stared intently at the screen, squeezing out an order through gritted teeth. All units, retreat 5 miles. Establish a longer distance isolation zone. No one is allowed to approach without my direct order. He turned to his assistant and added, immediately contact all available religious advisors and occult experts. I want to know this thing's weakness. Hurry. Inside the command room, everyone looked panicked. Even through the screen, they could clearly feel that inhuman sense of oppression. It was a fear stemming from primal instinct. The demon on the screen had completely surpassed humans in terms of life level. Is there really a way to deal with such a creature? Someone thought to himself, unconsciously clutching the cross hanging around his neck. Inside the mirror dimension, Yifeng calmly watched everything outside. Skyfather level strength is enough, he murmured softly. Even at Skyfather level, Blackheart still had no perception of this mirror dimension, which gave him a deeper understanding of Kamar Taja's magic system. However, Yifeng had no immediate plans to act. In his perception, the military's thermal weapons had long been aimed here, just waiting for the right moment. Yifeng was waiting for the perfect timing. Only when on the brink of despair would one truly appreciate the value of hope. The power of a Skyfather-level being was far more despair-inducing than depicted in movies and TV shows. Yifeng thought of Thanos' actions of indiscriminately slaughtering half the life on every planet he visited. Why was he so unrestrained? Was it by virtue of his Dark Order or the Chidori army? In the universe, there were countless civilizations with stronger technological power than the Chidori army. The Shi'ar Empire, the Kree Empire, the Skrulls, just Ronan the Accuser alone could suppress the Nova Corps until they couldn't breathe. And Thanos, as a Skyfather, was naturally more terrifying than Ronan. This was the oppressive feeling of an absolute powerhouse. Although the current Blackheart had only barely pushed himself to Skyfather level by relying on the overflowing energy from the Hell dimension, it was enough to shake the current Earth. It wasn't that Skyfather-level powerhouses couldn't be contained by technology, but rather that Earth's current technology simply couldn't do it. At the center of the battlefield, a powerful pressure swept across the entire city. The evacuating residents and some military and political personnel maintaining order were all pressed to the ground by this pressure. Many couldn't even lift their heads, only able to prostrate themselves, trembling uncontrollably. What in the world is going on? A soldier lying on the ground said with difficulty, his teeth chattering from fear. Those on site, more than those observing through screens, could perceive this kind of fear originating from the depths of their souls. Johnny's hellfire also flickered unsteadily under Blackheart's pressure, like a candle in the wind. Facing Skyfather-level Blackheart, he was clearly not having an easy time. But he still forced himself to stand up and taunted, "You want the San Banganza contract? You're dreaming." Boom. Blackheart's punch speed had exceeded their visible range. Johnny only felt an irresistible force hit his chest, and he flew backward like a broken kite, crashing heavily into a half-destroyed building. The already fragmented ground was now even more ravaged. Debris flew, and dust filled the air, forming a huge crater. Don't seek death. I'll say it one last time, hand over the San Banganza contract. We can leave Earth immediately. Blackheart roared. His tone carried a hint of imperceptible urgency. Within the Hell Dimension rift, he sensed a trembling aura, the auras of Mephisto and Ancient One. He knew he had been discovered. Are you afraid? Logan keenly noticed something was off. Logically speaking, Blackheart was already in absolute control, so why would he show fear? Boom. Blackheart stomped down, stepping on Logan's body, and the immense force caused the ground to crack again. My patience is limited. Last question. Where is the contract? Blackheart roared. Logan was stomped to the ground, immediately spitting out a mouthful of blood. Although his healing factor was rapidly repairing his injuries, the intense pain almost made him faint. Are you telling the truth? As long as we hand over the contract, you'll leave Earth. Suddenly, an old voice reached everyone present. Nay, the warhorse's cry rang out. Carter Slade, riding his mount, struggled to reach the battlefield. It was also thanks to the temporary lull in fighting, otherwise, he truly wouldn't have had the strength to get close. Carter Slade. You old geezer, you finally decided to show up. That's right, as long as you hand over the San Banganza contract, I'll leave Earth immediately. A glimmer of joy flashed in Blackheart's eyes. The power fluctuations behind the dimension were getting stronger and stronger. Mephisto might have already engaged Ancient One. If he delayed any longer, he would truly die. Carter Slade looked at Blackheart with a complex expression, then at the injured Logan and Johnny, who had just crawled out of the ruins. He knew that the Sorcerer Supreme hadn't appeared for so long, and the Sanctum Sanctorum hadn't sent a sorcerer to deal with this matter, so something must have gone wrong. Continued resistance would only lead to more unnecessary casualties. All right. I'll give it to you. I hope you keep your word. Carter Slade sighed deeply. He took out the San Venganza contract from the shovel he carried with him and threw it to Blackheart. It was a yellowed parchment, its surface emanating an ominous dark aura. That's right. This is it. I finally have the San Venganza contract. Blackheart's eyes were filled with ecstasy. Go. Blackheart, even at this point, hadn't forgotten his three allies. The elementals also showed wild joy and followed him. Blackheart knew that Logan and Johnny wouldn't die anytime soon, and he didn't want to waste a single second, so he vanished from the spot, flying towards San Venganza town. This contract could only fully unleash its power within the town. Why did you give him the contract? Johnny barely stood up, the flames on his head flickering somewhat, looking at Carter Slade with confusion and anger. Should I have watched you all die? We are not his opponents. Continued resistance would only lead to complete annihilation. Carter Slade shook his head helplessly. Logan and Clarice fell silent. They had originally thought their strength had reached a considerably powerful level, but after witnessing Skyfather-level power, they finally understood just how vast the difference between them was. Blackheart absorbed the power of Hell Dimension. Can His Holiness the Pope win? Johnny walked over to Logan and Clarice. Although he had heard of Yi Feng's power, he had never seen it with his own eyes. Blackheart's power had indeed stunned him. That kind of power gave one an unrivaled feeling. Logan fell silent. He couldn't say for sure. Because Yi Feng had never revealed his true strength. Clarice, however, said without hesitation, His Holiness will definitely win. Although that demon is powerful, he is absolutely no match for His Holiness. Johnny and Carter Slade, hearing this, also breathed a slight sigh of relief. Regardless of whether he could win, it at least indicated that Yi Feng possessed power on par with Blackheart. Little girl, you have a lot of confidence in me. Yi Feng's voice suddenly rang in everyone's ears. The air was like a mirror that had suddenly shattered, and Yi Feng's figure quietly appeared before everyone. His appearance did not cause any energy fluctuations, as if he had always been there, only no one had noticed. Your Holiness. Clarice was overjoyed, almost leaping as she ran towards Yi Feng. Your Holiness, when did you arrive? Logan struggled to his feet, his face showing respect. I came with the Sorcerer Supreme, when Blackheart first opened the dimensional portal. Yi Feng smiled slightly. Then do you know where the Sorcerer Supreme is now? Carter Slade stepped forward anxiously, his tone clearly urgent. In this mirror dimension twisted by magic, he only saw Yi Feng's figure, while the Sorcerer Ancient One, who always controlled the situation, was nowhere to be seen. Something happened in the Hell Dimension. Blackheart stole dimensional power that didn't belong to him, and Mephisto is furious about it. The Sorcerer Ancient One has already gone to the border between the real dimension and Hell to take charge. Yi Feng explained calmly, his voice steady, carrying a peculiar calming power. He paused, his gaze sweeping over the lingering worry on everyone's faces, and continued, Don't worry, everything is under control. This time, we not only need to deal with Blackheart, this menace, but also thoroughly purify the souls of the thousands of fallen holy spirits in the San Venganza contract. These words were like a potent tranquilizer. Johnny Blaze's tense shoulders visibly relaxed, and Carter Slade's furrowed brow also smoothed out slightly. I will handle Blackheart. You all should take this opportunity to rest and recover your strength. My lord. Can we go with you? Logan and Clarice exchanged glances, then simultaneously took a step forward. Oh. Tell me your reasons. Yi Feng raised an eyebrow slightly, not directly refusing. He always held higher expectations for these two highly potential mutants. A Saint Seiya who fears battle will never reach the peak. Logan took a deep breath. The slight arrogance he had shown earlier due to comprehending his cosmos was completely shattered, replaced by solemnity and unwillingness, We want to see with our own eyes how big the gap is between us and a Skyfather-level existence. Even when facing Magneto, he had never felt so powerless. All right, then follow along. A faint smile touched Yi Feng's lips. The next moment, space fluctuated, and everyone's figures instantly teleported. At the same time, the atmosphere in the military's underground command center was so tense it could almost drip with water. Senior generals and advisors stared intently at the central screen, watching the demon Blackheart sweep across the land as a black smoke. An ominous premonition spread through everyone's hearts. The Pope's Saint Seiya had been defeated, and the demon had clearly succeeded. Keep a close eye on him. The moment we catch the right opportunity, immediately implement saturation bombing. The three-star general's voice was decisive, carrying the resolve of burning one's boats. The command system swiftly relayed the order. Missile silos deployed across various locations slowly opened, and intercontinental missiles entered a standby state, awaiting the final launch command. San Venganza, this forgotten place, appeared even more dilapidated and eerie in the dim twilight. Amidst the crumbling ruins, withered tree branches twisted towards the sky like the arms of the dying. The crooked spire of the ruined church pointed diagonally at the overcast sky, as if a silent accusation against fate. Blackheart stood in the center of the town square, cracked flagstones beneath his feet. He clutched the parchment contract, glowing with an ominous black aura, his face alight with uncontrollable ecstasy and greed. Finally, this moment has finally arrived. He impatiently began to recite the words on the contract in an ancient, obscure demonic tongue. Each syllable triggered anomalies in the surrounding space. As he recited, the sky visibly darkened, and heavy, ink-black clouds pressed down, as if the firmament was about to collapse. Fierce winds howled, kicking up sand, stones, and dead leaves from the ground. The air was filled with the pungent, mixed smell of sulfur and decay. Countless shrill wails, venomous curses, and hollow whispers appeared out of thin air, intertwining into a terrifying chorus that unsettled the mind. Those were the fallen holy spirits, imprisoned for centuries, wailing and desperately longing to break free. Is this the power of the fallen holy spirits' souls? No wonder Mephisto has been obsessed with these thousands of souls, scheming for hundreds of years. Such immense power will ultimately be mine. Blackheart felt the vast, surging dark energy, and his eyes glowed blood red. My lord Blackheart, time is of the essence, we must leave Earth as soon as possible. The elementals circled around him, urging him anxiously. The parchment contract vibrated violently, and thousands of ink-black, twisted, struggling soul entities surged out of it like a breached dam. In an instant, the sky above the entire town was obscured by these thousands of fallen holy spirits, the sun was blotted out, as if it had plunged into eternal night. My God, what in the world is that? In the command center, someone exclaimed in shock, looking at the high-definition images sent back by the satellite. Even through the screen, the overwhelming evil and despair made people feel suffocated. Launch missiles. Now. Immediately. The direct order from the president's office was also relayed to the command center. The demon appearing in plain sight had a far more severe impact than the previous arrival of the demon god Valak. At that time, the Valak incident was strictly controlled in terms of its spread, but this time, the battle between demons, ghost riders, and Saint Seiya was happening at the city's edge, witnessed by countless citizens. Even fearless news reporters were live-streaming from the scene, with sensational headlines. Mythology descends to reality, what future awaits human civilization? In the footage, Blackheart's twisted figure stimulated the nerves of every viewer. To curb the spread of panic and maintain their crumbling credibility, the high-level officials could only choose the most extreme measure, use absolute firepower to wipe out the demon and everything associated with him from Earth. Fortunately, San Venganza was located in a remote, uninhabited suburb. A saturation bombardment with conventional missiles would not affect the city unless nuclear bombs were used. The order was given, and piercing alarms blared at multiple military bases. The next moment, dozens of missiles, trailing fiery exhaust, tore through the sky, heading towards the town marked as the Gate of Hell. The incoming missiles naturally did not escape Blackheart's perception. Insignificant ants seeking death. His crimson eyes were filled with disdain and brutality. He didn't even move. With just a thought, the hellfire that had already surrounded the town surged violently, transforming into a massive wall of fire connecting heaven and earth. The missile swarm plunged into this dark red wall of fire, but the anticipated earth-shattering explosion did not occur. The peak-killing machines of human technology, upon touching the hellfire, had their metal casings visibly corrode and decompose at a visible rate. Their internal precision electronic components and high explosives seemed to undergo thousands of years of time, silently turning to ash and annihilating into nothingness. The great weapons that humanity prided itself on appeared so pale and powerless before a Skyfather-level demon lord. How is this possible? How can this be possible? In the command center, the three-star general slumped dejectedly in his chair, his face ashen. Apart from the ultimate weapon, nuclear weapons, humanity seemed to have no cards left to play. Behind him, the religious advisors and mystics who had been urgently summoned were drenched in sweat, frantically poring over ancient texts and manuscripts, trying to find the origin and weakness of the demon on the screen. Can't find anything, absolutely nothing. This demon has no clear record in any known mythological texts. A senior mystic took off his glasses, rubbing his temples with exhaustion and despair. Either he has never left a trace in history, or he is just an insignificant minor character in the hell dimension. But the power displayed by this minor character was enough to render the human military helpless. Unlike the demon god Valak's highly symbolic goat-headed demon form, Blackheart's demonic body, though equally terrifying, lacked sufficiently unique identifying features, leaving the experts at a loss. Where is the Pope? Has His Holiness the Pope of the Sanctuary departed? An advisor in clerical robes asked urgently. At this moment, Yi Feng had become the last hope in everyone's hearts. Our latest information is that he is still in the sanctuary. The communications officer's reply plunged the command center's atmosphere to freezing point. Even if Yi Feng were to immediately take the fastest fighter jet and rush here now, it would probably be too late. On the screen, the demon had clearly completed his ritual. The sky above San Venganza was completely shrouded by endless dark souls. The land exuded a dense aura of hell, as if it had been severed from the real dimension. Finally, the last and most solid and powerful fallen Holy Spirit broke free from the parchment contract's bondage. The environment of the entire San Venganza underwent a drastic change. The evil aura in the air was so thick it was almost palpable, the light was as dim as a total solar eclipse, and a bone-chilling cold swept across every inch of the land. Come, submit to me. I will grant you the freedom you crave, and the power of vengeance. Blackheart spread his arms, roared to the sky, and fully unleashed the stolen hell dimension power within him. The thousands of fallen holy spirits in the sky seemed to hear the call of their monarch, letting out even more frenzied roars. Then, like a black torrent, they changed direction and surged madly towards Blackheart, wanting to merge with him and push him to the peak of power. Just as the fallen holy spirits were about to touch Blackheart's body. Clang, 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 clang. A clear, resonant chime, like thunder from the nine heavens, echoed throughout the universe. Several colossal great swords, composed of pure holy light, appeared out of thin air in the sky above San Venganza, as if they had traversed space. Ancient runes were inscribed on their blades, radiating an immense power that suppressed all evil and stabilized the order of space. The moment the light swords appeared, space seemed to freeze. All the roaring, charging fallen holy spirits were forcibly suspended in midair, like insects caught in amber. The wildly swaying hell fire solidified. Blackheart and the elementals felt as if tens of thousands of mountains had been pressed upon them, pinned to the spot by an irresistible force, unable to move even a single finger. Sword of sealing light. Yi Feng's calm yet majestic voice rang out. The next moment, his figure, as if passing through a water curtain, silently detached from the mirror dimension and appeared in the center of this desolate, semi-hellish town. His white and gold-trimmed Pope's robe remained spotless amidst the pervasive evil aura, radiating an inviolable divine radiance. Logan and the others remained in the mirror dimension, nervously watching the outside world. They knew very well that a battle of this level was beyond their intervention, and staying in the safe space created by Sorcerer Ancient One was the greatest support they could offer Yi Feng. The colossal sword of light that suddenly descended to suppress the evil demons, and the holy figure that abruptly appeared in the center of the battlefield, were instantly transmitted to millions of screens via the still uninterrupted live broadcast signal. That is, it's the Pope. It's His Holiness the Pope. God bless. It's my lord, the Pope of Sanctuary. After a moment of shock, people who recognized Yi Feng's identity erupted in cheers, as if they had survived a great calamity. That iconic holy robe, that calm and powerful demeanor, belonged to none other than the Pope of Sanctuary, Yi Feng, who had been crowned recently under the watchful eyes of the masses. This is impossible. We detected no record of him leaving Sanctuary. Someone in the high echelons of the government exclaimed in shock. Clearly, he used extraordinary means unknown to us, directly traversing spatial distances to reach the battlefield. His previous travels adhered to our rules, but this time, with the urgency of the situation, he naturally chose the most efficient method. A relatively calm general said in a deep voice. Seeing Yi Feng appear, many high-ranking officials couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. Putting aside their positions, Yi Feng's presence immediately brought a full sense of security. It seems that after this battle, the prestige of the mutants and Sanctuary will reach a new peak. To only appear at the most critical moment, you truly are a master of calculation, His Holiness the Pope. Some politicians also muttered in low voices, seeing through the profound implications behind Yi Feng's dramatic entrance at this moment. However, everyone knew this was an overt strategy. At a time when human civilization faced an existential threat from the supernatural, no one could take away or question this world-saving achievement of turning the tide. In the center of the battlefield, Blackheart, suppressed by the immense power of the Sword of Light, struggled to turn his head. His crimson eyes stared intently at Yi Feng, his voice distorted by the immense pressure. Who exactly are you? Under the tenacious resistance of Hell Dimension power, his massive demonic body was slowly regaining control. The light seal that bound him emitted a faint groan, as if it was on the verge of breaking. Indeed, with my current understanding of element control, fully sealing a Skyfather-level existence for an extended period is still a bit short. Yi Feng calmly watched Blackheart slowly breaking free from his restraints, as if evaluating, or perhaps stating a fact. He suddenly turned his head, his gaze seemingly piercing through spatial barriers, looking towards the mirror dimension. Logan. Clarice, watch closely. This is the true fighting style of a Saint Seiya. His voice clearly reached Logan and Clarice's ears. The moment his words fell, Yi Feng's white robe with gold trim, symbolizing the authority of the Pope, dissipated into countless sparkling light particles, like a sand painting blown away by the wind, slowly vanishing into the air. In its place was a form-fitting, battle-ready standard combat uniform of the Holy See. That elaborate robe was actually temporarily constructed by him using his exquisite element control abilities. An indescribably vast aura surged from within Yi Feng. His cosmos ignited. The ruins of Sanctum Sanctorum, originally stained dark red by hellfire, underwent a sudden transformation. A profound cosmic star map unfurled from its center, with countless stars flickering within it, instantly transforming this evil-infested land into a part of the boundless universe. This power, it's the Holy See. Blackheart was both shocked and enraged. He had previously felt a similar, but far less powerful, energy from Logan, and immediately understood the identity of the newcomer. This human before him was far more terrifying than the troublesome mutant powerhouse he had encountered earlier. You're asking for death. Blackheart naturally wouldn't sit idly by. He roared, and the stolen Hell Dimension power within him erupted, impacting the surrounding light seal with tangible black ripples. Clang! In the sky, a massive sword of light, unable to withstand the violent impact, let out a mournful cry and suddenly shattered into a rain of light. The seal loosened slightly. Blackheart, having regained his mobility, charged with towering rage and hellfire, punching towards Yi Feng. His fist carried destructive energy, causing ripples in space as it passed. Boom! Fists collided. No flashy techniques, only the purest clash of power. Centered on the point where their fists met, a destructive impact spread outwards in a circular fashion. The earth was easily torn apart like fragile biscuits, instantly collapsing into a massive crater nearly 100 meters in diameter and dozens of meters deep. The ground within tens of kilometers violently trembled, as if a powerful earthquake had occurred, its momentum far more terrifying than Yi Feng's previous battle with demon god Valak. The live broadcast signal was completely cut off at this moment, and the screen turned to static. The only direct spectators of the battlefield were the few individuals within the mirror dimension. And the elementals, who were already suppressed by the sword of light, couldn't even react to the aftershocks of this first earth-shattering collision. Their bodies and souls were instantly shattered like grains of sand swept away by a hurricane. Before their death, their eyes were filled with extreme fear and unbelievable despair. They had just seen the hope of seizing dimensional power, only to face complete annihilation in an instant. Only the several thousand souls of the fallen holy spirits, seemingly protected by some special power, remained suspended in midair, unaffected. Come, let me fully experience just how strong Skyfather-level power truly is. A long-absent fervent fighting spirit ignited in Yi Feng's eyes. Even when facing Magneto and demon god Valak before, he had never been so excited. The next moment, two figures, one large and one small, instantly vanished from their original positions. Bang! Boom! Thud! In the sky, a continuous series of violent collision sounds, like thunder, resounded. Each clash was accompanied by a visible energy storm, which swept downwards from high altitude, mercilessly tearing apart everything on the ground. Is this the power of a Skyfather-level being? In the mirror dimension, Logan spoke hoarsely, his throat dry. Clarice clenched her fists, her knuckles white from the effort. In the aftershocks of such a battle, they were certain they wouldn't last even a second before being completely torn to shreds. Although the government high-ups had lost the live broadcast feed, it didn't mean they were oblivious to the outside world. The energy storm connecting heaven and earth, clearly visible to the naked eye from nearly 100 kilometers away, and the continuous dull explosions like rolling thunder, all indicated a terrifying duel taking place in the distance. The sound even pierced through space, causing some ordinary people with weaker constitutions to feel dizzy, barely able to maintain their movements. Activate the highest level emergency plan. Evacuate all civilians with full effort. This is a natural disaster. A humanoid natural disaster. A government official stared at the apocalyptic scene in the distance, muttering to himself with a dazed look in his eyes. In the city, panicked residents, organized by military police, were desperately fleeing to more distant areas. However, some devout believers, disregarding the danger, knelt on the ground and prayed fervently towards the battlefield. My Lord Pope, you will surely win. You will protect this world once again. In the high sky, the two figures of vastly different sizes transformed into two streaks of light, constantly colliding, separating, and colliding again at speeds beyond the limit of human vision, like two out-of-control meteors wildly crashing in the night sky. My goal isn't Earth at all. Why are you clinging to me so relentlessly? Blackheart roared in anger after being repelled by Yi Feng once more. His long-cherished wish was within reach, and the Sanctum Sanctorum, which had always protected Earth, had not directly intervened for some unknown reason from beginning to end, leading him to believe that his years of aspirations were about to be realized. He never expected such an impossibly strong human powerhouse to emerge at the last moment. How reckless. A calm voice sounded at the edge of the battlefield. Ancient One's figure quietly appeared. She looked at the almost shattered earth and shook her head helplessly. Immediately, she formed hand seals, and a huge golden magic circle, flowing with countless ancient runes, rapidly unfolded centered on the battlefield, enveloping the entire area. If left unchecked, the full-force clash of two Skyfather-level beings would only be a matter of time before they shattered this planet beneath their feet. Yi Feng glanced at the familiar golden array in the sky, a smile playing on his lips. The Hell Dimension rift has been closed, huh? Without the continuous support of Hell Dimension power, how long can your forcibly elevated Skyfather-level state last? He felt the changes in the surrounding space and then looked at Blackheart, whose aura showed a hint of disorder. You're asking for death. Blackheart was completely enraged. He knew that all his retreats had been cut off. Only one person on the entire Earth could cast such a powerful magic array. Ancient One's appearance meant that his last hope had been shattered, and the only outcome seemed to be death. But even if he died, he would drag this human who had ruined everything down with him. It seems there are no more worries. Yi Feng flexed his wrist, feeling the surging cosmos power within him. The energy of his cosmos surged violently to an unprecedented degree. The cosmic star map behind him became even clearer and more vast, as if countless stars were being born and dying within it. Kill. Yi Feng's figure suddenly blurred. What? So fast? Blackheart only felt a blur before his eyes, and Yi Feng had already appeared before him like a ghost. Bang! A tearing pain shot through his abdomen as he was brutally slammed to the ground by a heavy kick from Yi Feng. Before he could even fall, a crushing impact came from his back, and his massive body was uncontrollably thrown upwards again. Next, Blackheart's enormous demonic body became like a giant sandbag, constantly being bombarded by an invisible force in the sky. He was sent flying in various twisted postures, only able to emit roars of impotent rage, completely unable to catch Yi Feng's lightning-fast figure. Human. You deserve to die. Blackheart was completely insane. If he still didn't understand now, he would be too foolish. The essence of the Sanvenganza contract was a trap, whether it was aimed at Mephisto or some other entity. And he, like a fool, jumped into it, becoming a stepping stone for the man before him. Boom. Pitch-black demonic flames, mixed with the essence of his soul, furiously burned from within Blackheart's body. This was his final struggle, sacrificing everything for a brief peak in power. His body seemed to shrink a size in the flames, but his speed and strength suddenly surged, barely keeping up with Yi Feng's ghost-like speed. In the night sky, two streaks of light collided again with speeds imperceptible to the naked eye, each impact erupting with blinding light like a supernova and destructive energy shocks, constantly bombarding the golden magic array set up by Ancient One, causing ripples in the formation. Burning everything. How long can you last? Yi Feng's voice remained calm, but his fists and feet struck out like a storm, forcing Blackheart to only roar in madness. Even though Blackheart gained a temporary power boost by sacrificing himself, he was still firmly suppressed. The disparity in combat skills and power application between the two was simply too vast. Yi Feng believed that in terms of understanding and application of power, the Blackheart before him was inferior to the previous demon god Valak. Boom! Yi Feng delivered an incredibly heavy uppercut, landing squarely on Blackheart's abdomen. Blackheart violently spat out a large mouthful of demonic blood mixed with fragments of internal organs, his massive body flying backward like a kite with a broken string. With a flash, Yi Feng reached out and grasped Blackheart's face, pulling him up to his own eyes. At this moment, Blackheart had lost all resistance. What a pity, your power, it's already starting to wane. Yi Feng looked at the rapidly weakening Blackheart before him with a hint of regret. From burning everything until now, only 2 or 3 minutes had passed, and his forcibly boosted power was rapidly deflating like a punctured ball. Human, I didn't lose to you, I lost to Ancient One, I lost to Mephisto. Blackheart's voice was filled with intense resentment and venom, his breath failing. Is that so? Yi Feng smiled noncommittally. Then, have you heard the roar of the galaxy stars? What? Blackheart was startled. The next moment, Yi Feng seemed to step on an invisible staircase, a halo blooming beneath his feet, and he stomped down fiercely. Thud. The entire sky seemed to tremble with his stomp. Blackheart only felt an irresistible immense force act upon him, blasting his shattered demonic body like a cannonball towards the higher sky. 1,000 meters, 10,000 meters, in an instant, he was directly propelled into low Earth orbit, the cold vacuum of the universe and the distant scorching star reflected in his despairing eyes. To die under this move is your honor. Yi Feng's voice was like a divine oracle, clearly reaching Blackheart's consciousness across the vast distance. Listen to the voice of the galaxy stars. Galaxy explosion. Yi Feng slowly raised his hands, and the vast star map behind him suddenly contracted and condensed, finally transforming into the clear constellation of Gemini. It was as if the power of an entire galaxy was compressed between his palms. Stars were born in his palm, then, exploded. Endless, dazzling to the extreme light erupted. This was no longer ordinary light, but a destructive torrent of energy containing the birth and death of stars. Light. Light that devoured everything. At this moment, whether it was Logan and the others in the mirror dimension, or the people on the distant ground who were fleeing or praying, they all involuntarily closed their eyes, unable to directly look at that ultimate brilliance that seemed capable of purifying everything and destroying everything. This torrent of starlight, spanning heaven and earth, precisely struck Blackheart, who was floating in low Earth orbit, utterly without any power to resist. I refuse to accept this. Blackheart let out his last roar, filled with ultimate resentment. He was truly only one step away from realizing his ambition. The torrent of starlight did not pause in the slightest, effortlessly evaporating his powerful demonic body, along with the burning remnants of his soul, turning them into the most basic atoms in the universe. Subsequently, this destructive torrent, its momentum undiminished, plunged directly into the depths of the profound universe, disappearing from sight. What a magnificent and destructively beautiful combat technique! Ancient One, who had been quietly observing all of this, couldn't help but sigh softly as she saw the galaxy explosion that pierced through heaven and earth. The galaxy explosion released by Yi Feng not only completely annihilated Blackheart's existence, but its aftermath, after erupting, seemed to carry a purifying power, sweeping away the accumulated dark clouds and pervasive evil aura in the sky. The dim sky became clear again, and starlight scattered down. The last holy sword of light, emitting a soft yet firm glow, was already covered in cracks. But it still acted like a stabilizing needle, continuing to seal the thousands of restless fallen holy souls, keeping them frozen in midair, unable to break free. Click. A crisp snap of fingers sounded. Yi Feng reached out and made a grasping motion, and a thick book with a pure white cover, exuding a faint holy glow, appeared out of thin air in his hand. He casually flipped open a page, and a soft golden glow flowed out from between the pages, interspersed with countless tiny, profound, mysterious runes. These runes originated from Athena in his previous life, specifically used to purify the dead and soothe spirits, and they were perfectly suited for the task at hand. One by one, golden runes seemed to be guided, accurately flying towards the sealed fallen holy souls, beginning to entwine them like warm threads. Under the continuous baptism of the golden runes, the ominous black aura surrounding the soul bodies began to slowly melt away like ice and snow exposed to sunlight. The essence of the souls gradually revealed itself, becoming pure and translucent, even beginning to emit a sense of serene yet powerful strength. Thousands of holy souls tempered by the fires of hell, and then purified by pure divine power, this is quite a profound foundation. Sorcerer Supreme's gift is truly not light. Yi Feng looked at the sea of souls, which was gradually becoming pure white and dazzling, and murmured softly to himself. Once all the holy souls were thoroughly purified, Yi Feng slowly raised the holy tome in his hand, its pages turning by themselves without wind, emitting a powerful suction force, as if opening a gateway to a sacred realm, guiding the thousands of pure holy souls in the sky into the holy tome in an orderly manner. If one day, he could truly step into the level of a Dimension Lord, becoming an existence comparable to the underworld god Chthon or the Trinity Vishanti. Then this holy tome in his hand, constantly accumulating power, would become a legendary magic artifact no less than the Darkhold and the Book of Vishanti. And these holy souls sealed within it would become excellent allies and battle spirits for the holy tome's wielder. Ancient One, who had been observing from the shadows, saw Yi Feng successfully purify and absorb all the holy souls, and a approving smile appeared on her face. Immediately, the massive golden magic array that enveloped this area quietly dissipated as if its mission was complete, and her figure also disappeared silently, as if merging into the air. The mirror dimension is about to disappear. The moment Ancient One left, the magic sustaining the mirror dimension also dissipated. Logan, Clarice, Carter Slade, and Johnny Blaze felt the ground solidify beneath their feet, having been thrown back to the real ground by the space, feeling a little disoriented but quickly steadying themselves. Yi Feng's movements did not stop. After sealing all the holy souls, he gently inverted the book, pages facing downwards. The next moment, vibrant emerald green light flowed out from the pages, like warm spring water, slowly pouring into the scarred earth below. Under the influence of this power, which contained powerful life and natural laws, tender green grass shoots emerged from the scorched, cracked earth at a visible speed, vibrant flowers bloomed in competition, and even slender saplings began to sprout branches and leaves. At the same time, a rich earthy yellow light also surged, like an invisible giant hand, slowly filling the massive deep pits torn open by the bottle's aftermath. Looking at the earth rapidly recovering its vitality, Yi Feng's brows furrowed slightly. Without a powerful barrier for protection, the destructive power of top-tier experts fighting on Earth is truly astonishing. He clearly realized a problem. As a nexus between the real dimension and other dimensions, Earth's own structure was too fragile compared to powers that could destroy stars at will. If Earth were to be used as a base to confront greater threats in the future, this problem must be addressed. It seems that constructing a global protective barrier must also be put on the agenda. He pondered silently in his heart. After completing all this, Yi Feng slowly descended from the sky, lightly landing in front of his companions, his aura stable, as if the fierce battle just now had not consumed too much of his energy. His gaze fell upon the somewhat reserved Johnny Blaze. Johnny Blaze, are you willing to return to the sanctuary with us? Me. Johnny pointed to himself, seeming somewhat disbelieving. He was just a motorcyclist forced to make a deal with a demon. How could he receive a personal invitation from the Pope? That's right, it's you. Yi Feng nodded affirmatively, his gaze seeming to see through the essence within him. The Ghost Rider's power you carry is quite special. It is not a purely demonic creation, its origin actually comes from an angel. As long as you can fully understand and control this power, and even awaken your angel form, then even in broad daylight, you will be able to transform freely and unleash a more powerful, pure divine power. So that's it, the power of an angel. No wonder after you transform, I always feel that the hellfire contains both a sacred meaning and a chaotic, violent aura, which is very contradictory. Logan, beside him, suddenly understood, stroking his chin. Johnny Blaze lowered his head and pondered for a moment. He had betrayed Mephisto, and the soul contract was still in the old demon's hands. By himself, trying to reclaim his soul was like a fool's dream. But relying on the papacy, perhaps, he could truly see a glimmer of hope. Good. I'll go back to the sanctuary with you. He raised his head, his eyes becoming firm. Hearing his decision, a gentle smile appeared on Yi Feng's face. Very good. After returning to the sanctuary, you can first follow Logan to familiarize yourself with the environment. He will teach you the method of cultivating cosmos. This will greatly benefit your understanding and control of your own power. In Yi Feng's heart, Johnny, who possessed both divine judgment and control over the undead, might be one of the best candidates to inherit the gold saint cloth of Cancer in the future. Thanks for watching.